as we continue. Designated 54 years ago by the Liberation Committee of the fledgling Organization of African Unity, OAU, the role of the committee was to assist liberation movements on the continent through the provision of material assistance. The observance was thought to have been brought to the UK in the early 1970s by the burgeoning Black Power movement. The traction the movement possessed was evidenced by the 25,000 that came out to Birmingham's Handsworth Park in 1977 event. It was a momentum that was carried forward into the new decade, with a similar number swelling the ranks of the National Black People's Day of Action in 1981. If evaluated solely by numbers, it could be argued that the movement has been in decline ever since. Certainly, there have been few, if any, liberation-themed occurrences that have garnered as much support since. This phenomenon brings into sharp focus one of the key challenges, according to guerrilla marketing coach and consultant Aakhu, facing any community, enterprise, economic or political, etc. The retention of customers. Aakhu asserts that the primary function of business is for keeping, not getting customers, with an 80% to 20% split in terms of getting and keeping customers. 20% dedicated to getting customers and 80% dedicated to keeping your customers. Thus, past history indicates that even when the movement had the wherewithal to attract large numbers, the capacity to convert this into a viable contingency was apparently lacking. One factor could be what Professor Manu Ampim refers to as the lecture mode of organizing. This is described as, quote, excessive dependence on podium-oriented politicking that has helped to create a generation of do-nothing, quote-unquote, leaders. More, the implicit dichotomy between, quote-unquote, expert and audience has further hampered any real growth among activist organizations, unquote. Ampim is an advocate of the workshop model, a hands-on organizing tool. This model de-emphasizes reliance on individual experts, stressing instead group expertise and participation. Theoretically, social media offers a host of opportunities to engage with the community at large in various ways. However, it is not clear to what extent this has been embraced. So tonight, kings and queens, we are asking the question, has the Pan-African movement failed to market itself effectively? Why does the Afrikan Liberation Movement, the Afrikan Liberation Movement appeal to the masses of black people? Does Pan-Afrikanism need a rebrand? Why is the conscious community infamous for producing poor promotional material? Does considering African liberation a product to be marketed cheapen the movement? Are Pan-Afrikan activists simply out of touch? Or has white propaganda or white marketing succeeded in destroying the image of the movements in the minds of African people? Where can we find and how can we develop effective marketing in the African community? Our guests, kings and queens, are, as already introduced, Brother Mbandaka, the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist movement, ambassador to the UK for the UNIA-ACL and co-chair of the interim National African People's Parliament, and also an African-centered education consultant. We are joined on the line all the way from Atlanta, USA, by Brother Aakhu. Brother Aakhu is a trained guerrilla marketing coach and consultant specializing in profit-focused guerrilla marketing for black people. He is the owner of Better Marketing for Us, a company that provides marketing training and consulting for business owners. Aakhu is an initiate into the Kemetic spiritual system under Mwata Ashby. As a result of this training, he has looked closely at the concept of alchemy as it relates to Kemetic spirituality and its connection to the current economic system. He has pioneered an African-centered approach to marketing that gives black business people the core power to neutralize racism through better marketing. Yes, indeed, kings and queens, this is our show today. And so first, let me make sure that we have our guest on the line. Brother Aunkh, are you with us?
Tendai Mari, yes, it's a beautiful joy to be here. I am honored and humbled by the invitation and by the introduction.
Indeed.
So, yes, I'm here.
Thank you, my brother. And you're here, your voice is coming through very strongly, so we give thanks for that. All right, let me first of all introduce you to everybody in the studio. Obviously, you know who I am. My name is Brother Shakara. We are also joined by our co-host, Mama Kai, Sister Kai.
Tendai Mari.
And we are also joined by Brother Leader Mbandaka, who you met, I believe, at the Reparations March. So, Brother Leader, we'd like to greet you now. Tendai Mari.
Tendai Mari, my beloved brother Aunkh. Good to hear your voice and to feel your spirit on the airways this evening. Tendai Mari.
Likewise, the feeling is completely mutual. Tendai Mari to you, and I'm ready for a really powerful conversation and discussion.
All right,
I can feel that.
All right, so brothers, listen, let me say to you from now that not only are you going to have the pleasure of hearing Brother Aakhu on the radio, but he will be in the country at the beginning of next month, and we are putting together an event with our brother so that he can, unleash his expertise on the African community over here. So do stay tuned, because we're going to give you full details about that, as well as our Shumira at the top of the hour. Yes, Brother Aunkh. So thank you for joining us once again. And first of all, let me just ask you the broad question, which is our main question today. Has the Pan-African community failed to market itself effectively to the masses of African people?
So that question, you probably would need a book to really answer that, or maybe a series, volumes.
Yes.
So I'm going to give it the simple answer of yes.
Okay.
But a but behind the yes.
Right.
Meaning that there are kind of extenuating circumstances that we should take into consideration, and it shouldn't be something that is looked at necessarily as a beatdown of our attempts to organize our people and those who have been on that journey and in that movement.
Yes.
We have to look at the bigger picture of what is happening and what has been happening, and to understand our connection to marketing in today's world, and how that can effectively lead to the organizing of our people towards an African global order. Okay.
All right, and so in that case, my brother, one of our questions relates to, would you say that the Pan-African movement has been the victim of a negative marketing campaign? Yeah, and if so, to what extent is the perceptions of our people about the Pan-African movement the result of negative marketing, and to what extent is it to do with our failure, so to speak, in terms of marketing ourselves effectively?
So these are excellent questions. So we want to begin with some core concepts, right?
Yes.
So the legacy of marketing in Black or in African history, there's kind of a notion. So when I talk about marketing, I am not just talking about it in the context that Western capitalism talks about it. Certainly it is the engine of Western capitalism,
yes,
but it existed in its essential formats and formations long before that. As a matter of fact, we would not have been able to produce the remarkable empires that we did produce had it not been for a level of successful marketing. So there's a legacy that at an appropriate time, and probably when I get there, we'll be able to discuss it in more detail.
Yes, sir.
So there was a disruption in the natural order of marketing in African culture. Right?
Okay.
That disruption you can call the Ma'afa, which in many ways was a remarketing effort, and I'll explain that. So marketing is about the control of human values, right?
Yes.
And a culture is a system of shared values, right? So whenever you talk about, let's say you talk about Chinese culture, you can talk about Chinese food, you can talk about Chinese language. It is what the people have in common that collectively organizes them, that they identify as their own. And so their behaviors in the world will reflect a valuing of those things. And those behaviors, when they carry them out, also serve to economically empower that culture of people. So when a Chinese person supports Chinese food, China and the culture of China is therefore maintained as a result of that.
Yes, sir.
So Africa and the culture of Africa is maintained by African marketing. And what has happened to us is because of the disruption or the ma'afa, we have that instrument has been transplanted with a new system of us that is designed and geared within us to sustain and maintain a different culture, a different agenda, and essentially it is the culture that is leading to really our disintegration and our destruction on the planet. So in other words, we have been conditioned with a new consciousness vis-a-vis marketing, really, which is from a psychological standpoint, it is how we accept and spread ideas and concepts and beliefs and patterns of thoughts and behavior. All of this is really what marketing results in.
Okay.
And so what has happened, if you look at the work of Tom Burrell, of Burrell Communications here in America, he was one of the first black advertising agencies. He wrote a book called Brainwashed, right? Which I love the fact that you talked about this being the only radio show where we're going, where we're essentially cleansing the brain, or I forget the way you said it exactly.
Yes.
But we're ridding ourselves
the
of the
de-brainwashing station.
The re-brainwashing station.
De-brainwashing.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. And that is the work that we have to do in our marketing to a very large degree, right?
Yes, sir.
So what he says in the concept of brainwashing is that what has happened in effect is that essentially the enterprise system of Western capitalism has in fact created a ongoing marketing campaign for the last 400 years or so that has convinced our people that we are inferior, not on the level of consciousness, but on the level of behavior. So when you look at our spending patterns, what we buy, what we value, you will notice that we tend to value things that essentially would mean that we are in fact inferior in our own psychology without realizing it. So when somebody says, I need the brand name clothing, right? When the rappers have the biggest chains and the diamonds on because they think that those are the things that make them somebody as opposed to being somebody, and then right?
Yes, sir.
These are the kinds of concepts that have infiltrated, have permeated our community, and as a result, globally, what we see is that we are tending towards valuing other people's culture. And we can only be wealthy people and powerful people if we value African culture more than any other culture.
Right.
This is why Garvey gave us the marketing principle called race first.
Yes, sir.
Which is a marketing principle, right?
Okay.
It doesn't mean you can't value somebody else.
Okay.
But you got to put yours first.
Yes, sir.
And we haven't successfully, from the time of Garvey, which he did he would have been a wonderful exception to the marketing rule that we're talking about, because he was really underestimated in terms of the power of his marketing capacity, right? Much of the success of UNA can be laid at the feet of his ability to engender, promote, and attract masses of our people to his message, to a very compelling message that fit their specific needs at that time.
Okay. All right, we're going to come back to that, my brother. But let me ask you off the bat, because we're focusing obviously on the Pan-African community, what some might call the Black Power community, the conscious community, and more recently the woke community, my brother. But I want to ask you, is this deficit of marketing potential, not potential, actualization, something that is specific and peculiar to Pan-Africanist, African-centered folk, or can it be found across the black community? And in relation to that, lastly, where in the black community, can we find consistent examples of effective marketing? Is this just a problem with black conscious people?
Wow. So, I credit you with asking some of the highest quality marketing questions I have ever heard, and I get asked a lot, so I do appreciate them.
Yes, sir.
So here's the perspective that I would say in relation to, is it a black problem or is it a kind of a Pan-African problem? So when we look at the statistics, so I'm going to use America as an example because that's the context that I'm in. So when we look at America, what they telling us from the statistics, the most recent statistics, is that the average black business in America, there are 2.5 million of them. The average black business generates about $58,000 a year, right? You can do the translations into pounds or whatever. I'm not great with math. Yeah. But so 58,000 a year. Now, the nearest minority would be the Hispanic community. And the Hispanic community similarly has a few more businesses, but they collectively generate 150,000 per year, right? Okay. So the average Hispanic-owned business generates 150,000. Then you have the Asian community, and they're somewhere around 300 to 400,000 in America per business. Right. So compare 58,000, 150,000, 300 to 400,000, and then you have the majority business, the average about 600,000. Okay. Right? So the average, so the race factor in business is huge, and nobody talks about it. Okay. Everybody pretends that in business, money is green. It does not, money doesn't discriminate. Right. Money can be the most discriminatory force on the planet. Yes. Like where it tends to end up. If you look at the wealthiest people, by statistics, and then you look at the poorest people, you'll realize money is a racist. Yes. By far. Yes, sir. Right? Yes. So it is a black community problem. However, when you become a conscious, or to your point, woke personality, what happens is that the culture itself identifies you using various mechanisms. So this culture that we're in, Western culture in general, identifies each participant in that culture and rewards or punishes their behavior based on their commitment to the culture. Okay. You get what I'm saying? I get, fully. So in other words, okay. So if you have somebody that, for instance, looks black, but behave in every way like a Caucasian person, right? Philosophically, psychologically, every way, then they would tend to do 10 times better economically than the average black person who hasn't figured that game out. Right, okay. Whereas now you have the person who is consciously black, not even just black. Now they're going down the road of saying, I want to affirm this blackness in many ways. I want to, what Dead Press in their song said, I'm blacker than black. I take it back to my origin. So when you go from being black to say, let's say being African all of a sudden, right? Which that's a huge jump for many people, particularly in the diaspora. Those types of notions and the behaviors that come with that, when your values start to change, it actually represents a threat to the system. Therefore, the people who are often engaged in the conscientious movement for various number of reasons tend to be more punished for that position that they have. Right. They've decided to grow their hair naturally in locks, and they've decided to wear African clothes, and this is not the right way to do business. Okay. This is not the appropriate way to be in certain situations. So this is not the kind of behavior we reward. In many ways, it would be better for you to be a thug or gangster on the apparent level, at least, than to be somebody who's consciously African. All right. So that's part of the problem that we are facing. So there are things to be done about this, and it's not an unsolvable situation. It is an impossible situation, but so is building a pyramid. And we've done that. All right. Okay. All right. So, my brother, side question, but maybe an important one. So that based on what you said, when we say things like black businesses, black organizations need to be more professional, by implication of what you said, does that generally mean that the implication of professional is white? Generally, that's what it means. Right. And generally, I would disagree with that premise. Okay. But I would be compassionate and understand why. Right. Because you are you're under essentially a system of cultural dominance that that rewards and punishes.
Yes.
And the strategy, even in America, if you look at the most successful black companies in America, and you asked about successfully marketing,
Yes.
what you will notice that they have in common, if you look at BE, every year Black Enterprise puts out the BE 100 list of the most successful black companies, which are, generally speaking, compared to other companies, they're only marginally successful. But to us, they are fantastically successful. So
Yes.
if a black company earns $1 billion, that would put them among the top 2 or 3 companies in America.
Yes.
All right. Whereas over 4,000 companies in America, I think, earns over $1 billion. So that you'd be 1 in 4,000.
Okay.
So that said, what they would tend to have in common, you'd notice, is they are what I like to call invisible companies.
Yes.
Right. So you've heard of the book The Invisible Man and those
Yes.
kinds of things.
Yes.
They are invisible companies, which means, for all intents and purposes, unless and until somebody points out
Yes.
that these are black-owned companies,
Right.
there's no way you can tell,
Okay.
typically.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes you walk into them, and there was a beautiful hotel in where I used to live in Miami that was black-owned,
Yeah.
and we wanted to support it, so we ran it up in there, and the energy of the people there was like, oh my gosh, some black people just came in. They're gonna spoil everything.
Yeah,
they're gonna
yeah,
ruin.
yeah.
They're gonna ruin everything. Do not come in here and try to spend money here.
Yes,
Whatever you
yes,
do,
yes.
we're like, but you're the only black hotel in the whole area. We'd like to support the black hotel, and they were like, no, you're gonna blow our cover.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So there is a significance to the quagmire that we find ourselves in. That's why I say we shouldn't really beat ourselves about where we are. We should just recognize it and then use some of use the power of strategy to really rethink how we approach.
Okay.
Where.
All right, we're going to get into it, Kings and Queens. The number to call later on, Kings and Queens, not quite yet, but later on, is 0207-193-0174. You can text us right now, however, on 07508-323-744. Once again, 07508-323-744. The question that we are asking, Kings and Queens, is: has the Pan-African movement failed to market itself effectively? Why are we not getting through to the masses of our people, Kings and Queens? Yeah, we're speaking to Brother Aakhu, Kings and Queens, the world's only, and soon to be not the only, because I'll soon come join him, but soon to be the world's only African-centered guerrilla marketing specialist, Kings and Queens. You have to get to know that. So we've got somebody in our community that is looking to solve this particular problem. Now, Brother Aakhu, we're talking about the Pan-African movement, which consists of more organizations than actual businesses. And we're going to come back to that because that might be part of the problem. Yeah.
That is the problem.
Right. But at the same time, when we're talking about organizations, we're talking about movements that engage in consciousness raising, politicization, re-spiritualization, and these kinds of things, which are all tools for our liberation. Yeah. And even economics, because we speak about economics a lot. Yeah. Especially us as Garveyites. All right.
Sure.
Now, based on what you said, it sounds as though we are in the position whereby we need to be marketing black liberation, African liberation to African people. Yeah? Is that the case? And if that is the case, are we cheapening our principles and our values in terms of African liberation, what it is, if we make it something that we need to market? Yeah, the product of a marketing campaign. Can black liberation be effective and wholesome if it is about marketing?
So let's look at it this way. Does white supremacy and its subsidiaries, its business interests, do they cheapen white supremacy by marketing products to you?
No, I think you would argue that they reinforce it.
Or does it in fact enable white supremacy to exist?
Yes.
In other words, if the average black person had a knock on the door from the local company up the street, and they said, from Tesco,
yes,
right? A big company in your guys' area.
Okay.
And the people said, hey, we at Tesco are proud white supremacists. We love to oppress you. We'd really need your support, though. We cannot oppress you without your support.
Yes, yes.
Would you please donate $1 today to help us oppress you, to help us make your life a living hell? We cannot do it without you, right? Which is really true,
yes,
right? White supremacy cannot do it without us. It just cannot. if it was organized in that way, which is the way that we choose to do it now in many ways, right? That's the way we choose to knock on people's door and say, hey, African liberation, blah, blah, blah. You need to support your own business. We need to support that.
Yes.
Now, which one is the cheapening, if you ask the question? What white supremacy does is they said, you know what? You got needs. You're going to want to eat. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to be the best provider of food to you. So you don't ever have to go to your own for food. You don't even have to depend on them. Depend on us.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, of course, we will exploit you, we will rob you, we'll rape you, we'll pillage you.
Right.
But at least you'll be fully fed.
Right.
And satisfied. You won't be hungry while you're oppressed. Right?
Yes.
Because who wants to be hungry while oppressed?
Yes,
That's what the issue is. So I'm saying sometimes we have to rethink what we're doing. And what I tell people is, do not confuse ideology and strategy.
Okay.
Right? Ideology will get you a vision, and that's very important.
Yes.
Strategy will get you the result.
Right.
The problem is, oftentimes people who are almost purely ideological have no real strategic processing, because strategy often looks very counterintuitive to ideology.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example. Nat Turner, right? Who we herald now as an ancestor, right? We certainly do, for his attempts at ending slavery, right? Which is what he was really attempting to do.
Yes.
If you had met him a year before that revolution happened, you probably, or most of us, conscious people who love Nat Turner, would have thought of him as the biggest sellout ever in history.
Yes.
Because, his master loved him.
Yes.
And that is why he was able to have the capacity to actually move between plantations freely, because he was so trusted by these people.
Right.
He was loved by those people to a high degree, and because of that, he was able to plot, plan. So, in other words, we have to be careful even now, even as I am a militant, or I'm not even militant, but like a conscious, super conscious is what they call me, super conscious spiritualist type guy.
Yes.
Even if as I take that position, I still have to respect those who may not appear that way, but are using what they have as a strategy successfully. It is okay to be strategic. As a matter of fact, it is critical to be strategic in what we're doing, and sometimes being so overt in our movements can work against us.
Okay. All right.
Brother Anu, Aakhu, sorry. Now, what I wanted to put to you, there are a lot of talk around African businesses in terms of just what you're touching on, whether you should be overt or covert, and if that can really work for us. Some people say that, you're saying, sometimes we're just overt, we're in there, red, black, and green. We open up our shop and everything is red, black, and green in your face.
Aunkh.
Maybe we should be a bit more subtle and be more open to everyone. But there's also the thought that if all of us are covert, how do we know that there's any strategizing going on? And how do we wake up the next generation who can't see anything red, black, and green, or identify with these colors, red, gold, and green? Isn't there a place for both?
Excellent question, my sister. So I'll go biblical just to keep my ability to impact a wider audience, maybe. So there's a scriptural reference where it says, "In my Father's house there are many mansions." I'm sure you probably have heard that.
Yes, sir.
So in the house of liberation, there are many mansions. All we need to know is that we have to get to a level of functional unity where we know that we're working together, where I am not against the person who has a slightly different strategy that I am. They may have a different strategy. The vision is still the same. Right. You know what I'm saying? And there's plenty. We need to approach and I'll use the word attack here, our challenges, our problems, our issues from all angles. There's no one way that's going to get us where we need. Only one way is for all of us to be active and engaged in the process of liberation, liberating ourselves to the capacity that we can. Okay. So even when I deal with businesses, this is the same kind of notion that, like on an individual level, businesses will have, where they say, I see everybody on Instagram and Facebook and all that. Shouldn't I be there because everybody else is there? And the answer is resoundingly no. It depends. It depends on what your particular intent is, what your own orientation is, where your customers are. There's a lot of factors that go into developing the strategy that will create the result, the specific result that you're looking for. Okay. And it doesn't have to look like anybody else's, right? There's more than one way to do anything. Mm-hmm. So I think it is important for us to embrace each other across for lack of a better term, these different categorizations that we give ourselves. Mm-hmm. Whether I appear to be, super African because I'm wearing African clothes all the time or whatever. I have the name, I have all these things, versus the person who looks like, somebody who's in a suit all the time, mm-hmm. and that kind of thing. We can come at the table and we can determine how we create a strategy that does exactly what you're saying, mm-hmm. that we have the people that are working covertly that need to, that are doing that. And then we have the people that are above board that need to do that need to agitate, that need to challenge things. We have that, mm-hmm. right? And working together is how we're going to win.
Okay, can I, Tenamori, give thanks for that, my brother. Now, a very important part of marketing, people say, certainly in the African community, is word of mouth. Now, how important is that now in today's world? Because a lot of us just use social media, and a lot of us are not utilizing word of mouth. Can you explain what word of mouth is, and are we still using it as a community, and is it still effective?
These are great questions. I'm loving the questioning that's happening here. Mm-hmm. So, if you stripped what has happened in the world today is that marketing has become, almost as a way of diffusing the power that we have to market, has become more tactical, and therefore has become about more what I call channelization of marketing. So first there was we just had maybe print, and then we had radio, then we had TV, then we had cable, then we had the internet, then we had text marketing, then we had social media, and it's like more and more and more opportunities to market to widening audiences and audiences that are actually splitting, and it's becoming very complex to figure out exactly how do you reach anybody when everybody is somewhere else, like they could be anywhere. So that complexity is actually a part of diffusing our rise in my contemplation. Okay. That the world is getting more complicated, particularly in terms of marketing, because we're starting to catch on to all of these things that are happening to us. So to answer your question about what is word of mouth marketing now, when you strip away all that stuff, mm-hmm. what marketing is at its core is word of mouth. It is the exchange of energy or ideas, or in some cases, it leads to goods and services. But fundamentally, it's the exchange of energy, ideas, and that usually happens one human to another, fundamentally. Mm-hmm. So everything that we're doing in the tactical space is purely to augment word of mouth. So now we're getting into the essence of marketing, and I'm going this is stuff we wanted to really present at a time, but we'll let it out, some of it out of the box now.
Just a little piece, Uncle, just a little piece, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. We'll hold back a little, but
yes, sir.
The essence of marketing really is the concept. If you understand it, and there's a marketer, Caucasian guy, but he highlights this. His name is Seth Godin, mm-hmm. and he used to be the marketing chair of Google. Right. And he talks about marketing as being fundamentally rooted in being able to leave a mark or to be remarkable. Uh-huh. In other words, if you have a product or service or idea or concept that is not worth repeating, then essentially whatever we do to market it is going to at least struggle. It's going to have a problem. This is why things that are insane still are successfully marketed, because they have that viral component. They're so silly that we have to repeat it, right? Or at least we feel compelled to, because it taps into that realm of remarkability. So when we talk about word of mouth, we're talking about the capacity that you have to generate conversations around what you're doing outside of just yourself, right? And this has been the essence of our marketing, period, when you understand what it is. The challenge is today, most people haven't even systemized word of marketing in their business. And there's a way to kind of systemize it. So you actually have a process that works. But you have to understand at its core, what makes you remarkable? What is it that people would talk about when it comes to dealing with you? And if you don't have things remarkable, then we should. Like, why do we talk about Kemet all the time? We got pyramids, we got monuments, these are remarkable. Like, they last for thousands of years. They're perfectly lined up with star systems. This is remarkable stuff. We are a remarkable people.
Yes.
And to some degree, we've kind of left that energy. And that's really the core of our spirit, is that who and what we are on this planet has always fundamentally been rooted in this kind of remarkability. We see it when we touch music. It becomes this creative thing. It becomes jazz or rap or whatever. When we do anything, when we bring that energy to it, it ignites and creates something that has the capacity to go viral. So in that sense, all of our businesses need to have that element rooted in it again if we are to thrive in the future.
All right. Thank you for that, Brother Aakhu. Kings and Queens, we're gonna ask Brother Aakhu and one more question, then we're gonna interact with Brother Leader, and then we're gonna open up the lines. So do stay tuned. 0207-193-0174. We are receiving your text 07508-323-744. As said, we're gonna ask Brother Aunkh one more question. Then we're going to interact with Brother Leader Mbandaka, and then we're going to open up the lines. All right, Brother Aakhu. Now, coming back to this issue of juxtaposing black African organizations with black African businesses, and the idea that maybe part of the problem is that the conscious community has far more organizations than it does businesses, pound for pound, or not enough businesses in relation to its organizations, let's say. Right. Now, I recall you saying on another interview that as business people, we have a unique opportunity to rebuild the trust within our community. Yeah?
That's correct.
So within the context of that statement, I'm going to ask you, what is the importance of African liberation organizations developing strong businesses?
Okay. So often these very same organizations that we're talking about find themselves economically challenged.
Yes.
Right? Because often the way that this culture works is profitability is one of the determinants of your existence as an entity. Right. So an entity has to at least have some type of surplus or to exist. Right. If it's in the deficit all the time, it's going to. So part of the attack on we start off. You mentioned in your writings as that business is warfare.
Yes.
So part of the way that we're attacked is by rendering us economically impotent.
Right.
Impotent. Right. And so if we were to now reformat our agenda to one of being, for lack of a better term, business oriented.
Yes.
Not just business oriented for the sake of being in business, by the way, not just to sell stuff.
Right.
Because when we talk about business in the African liberation context, we are actually talking about the leaders of the securing of the culture.
Right. Okay.
In the same way I started off talking about that culture, when you value your culture, when you are part of a culture, when a Chinese person goes to eat, they're going to eat Chinese food, and as a result, they're going to support Chinese culture automatically. Right. And so the business owner has the opportunity now to, one, give the community their needs, food, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And a part of our fragmentation has been rooted in our distrust.
Right.
And distrust is the opposite. Well, it's obviously the opposite of trust, but more importantly, trust has everything to do with economics.
Yes.
There's a saying here in marketing in America where we say that people spend money with people they know, like, and trust. And the first time I heard that, it threw me for a loop because I started thinking about all the people I knew and liked And then the word trust caused problems for me.
Right.
Because I'm like, I don't know if they trust me. I'm not sure.
Right.
So here, for instance, the industry of network marketing, by the way, which is a great example of how word of mouth works systematically.
Right.
Because that's what they do with that system. That's a conversation for another day. So anyway, the point I guess what I was making was that we spend money with people we know, like, and trust. And often what I found is that it became more apparent that people were not necessarily trusting of me in certain contexts purely because, not so much because of me,
right,
but just because of who we are. We look at each other very differently.
Okay.
We don't expect of us very much. So when you ask the average black person, what do they think about black business?
Yeah.
Often what you'll hear is a lot of negative statements. Right?
Yes.
We go negative, and you say, okay, give me 5 positive experiences you've had with black business, and that takes work.
Yes.
That's like a doctoral dissertation. They got to do years of research, and they got to, it's a whole thing that they have to, we can't figure out.
Yeah.
And that is part of the successful marketing of, or what I call mismarketing or myth marketing of black business.
Right.
So there is a myth marketing that says we are inferior, and our people, if they continue to tout that message, have bought into it.
Okay.
When we now, as African liberation oriented businesses, start to challenge that notion through what we're doing by delivering higher service, by delivering higher value to our people, what happens is people begin to have different experiences of what a black business is. They have a different valuation of what a black business is. And more importantly, they have a different relationship to black business. At the end of the day, marketing really comes down fundamentally to human relationships.
Right.
And if our relationships are broken, then we're going to have some problems in every other area of our lives, right?
Okay.
And so part of this is now repairing. As business people, we have to become the kind of business people that our people have complete trust in.
Right.
They know that we're good. They know we're going to treat them right. They know that we're going to always give our best. They know that if they have a problem, we're going to deal with them fairly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, African liberation-oriented businesses have a unique opportunity to heal our people, because economic healing is as important as spiritual, psychological, or even physical healing.
All right. Thank you for that, Brother Aakhu. And I'm minded to say that as well as everything that you just shared, in terms of building those business relationships, our people will begin to associate business success with African liberation. And that in and of itself is quite an effective marketing tool.
Can I add something to that?
You
since
may.
You brought that up?
Yes, sir.
So think about this. One of the biggest opportunity to change the African world right now, right? One of our biggest issues is, in many areas, at least in the West in particular, is unemployment.
Yes, yes.
What would happen if Pan-Africanists become the #1 employees of African people globally?
Big question. Big question.
I'll leave it there.
All right, 0207-193-0174, Kings and Queens. What would happen if the Pan-African community became the #1 employer of African people? Kings
Garvey movement all over again.
Indeed. We're going to open up the phone lines. Oh,
No,
yeah,
worries.
we're going to open up the phone lines. But before we open up the phone lines, we're going to interact with Brother Leader Mbandaka. Brother Leader, we're going to give you the opportunity now to delve into what Brother Aakhu is saying. I'm not asking a question, just... give us some thoughts in terms of what you've heard our brother share today.
Mwari. Well, first of all, give thanks and praises unto Mwari Nyakusika, God, the creator of the universe, our great ancestors, for blessing us with the energies and the brilliance of our brother this evening through the practical work that he has been doing on the ground in the African community, the African nation domiciled in the USA. And I know our brother travels the world and brings his message to our people. So I think we're blessed this evening to have this wonderful insight of our brother, and it is to our brother's credit and to our absolute elation that he evokes the spirit of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, to counsel us with based on the rich legacy that he has left us.
Yes, sir.
Papa Garvey, and I think we could sum up what our brother Aunkh shared with us this evening, with the word sounds of the most eminent prophet and king himself, who says, be black, buy black, think black, and all else will take care of itself. Be black, buy black, think black. So I think this is what brother Aunkh is emphasizing, the need for us to be ourselves as a primary prerequisite, and that is about being steeped and grounded in our own culture, because that culture, our culture, informs us in terms of how we think. It informs us in terms of how we eat. It informs us in terms of how we dress, what kind of clothes we wear. All of that is determined through our culture. And then we have a principle whereby we provide to meet our own material needs. And nobody demonstrated that better than the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Be black, buy black, think black. A vital prerequisite to marketing is that we must be ourselves, we must think as Africans. And then he gives us a caveat as well in relation to thinking black, because he realized, being the wise prophet that he was, that there was a huge legacy of the Ma'afa. Brother Aunkh also talked about the Ma'afa, the huge legacy of the Ma'afa hanging over us, which incarcerated our very thinking. So Papa Garvey says, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, for none but ourselves can free our minds. We have to free our minds. We have to take our minds out of the thinking vessel of our oppressors, who condition us to act in a way that is not in our interest, as our brother demonstrate this evening. And I want to also evoke the wisdom of Baba John Henry Clark, who says to us, we must Africanize time and space.
Yes.
We must Africanize everything, including time and space. And that's what Brother Aunkh is saying to us as well this evening. And if we Africanize time and space, then all our desires will be for that which we create ourselves. All our desire will only be that which complements, that which enhances, that which makes manifest the beauty and the glory of Africanness.
So brother Lee, from a UK perspective now, this shows an introspective look, yeah? Are we failing as as African organizations, Pan-African organizations, to Africanize time and space? And is that the reason why we're not getting through to the masses of our people? I don't want to sound like a prophet of gloom and doom, so I don't want to adopt the word feeling. But we have some challenges. We have some work to do. There's a great deal more that we need to do in order to make manifest what it means to Africanize time and space. Brother, pose a teaser there for us. What would it be like? And we have to be visionaries. We have to, and this is what I love about people like Brother Aunkh, that we're listening to a visionary. We have to be visionaries and a strategist.
I was going to go on to say, the man who inspires this movement and who inspires Brother Aunkh by his own testimony, Papa Garvey, was a great visionary. He was a man with a vision. We talk in our movement about the man, the vision, and the plan. You see, we have to remember that behind the vision was always a plan to fulfill the vision. So he was not an ideologue for the sake of being an ideologue. He was a visionary who always had a plan to bring into being the vision, and within those plans were strategies and tactics for making it happen. And that's what we have to do. We talk about it on the show all the time. That we have to move from just talk to talk and action. We mustn't stop talking, but we must also have that determination to act upon the things that we say we believe in. So just for open up the lines very quickly, if you were to identify one thing, just one thing that we as African organizations or liberation businesses can do in this country to market ourselves better to our people, what would it be? If you were to say just one thing. If we were to Put the question again.
If we could you what if you were to identify one thing that we could do as African organizations or liberation oriented businesses to market ourselves better to our community, what would it be?
Well, Tendai Mwari,
Tendai.
when we talk about marketing, we're talking about generating custom, bringing the people to us, satisfying the people when they come to us, in order that we can maintain the custom of the people.
Right.
So we have to. I think Brother Aunkh talked earlier on about meeting the people where they're at. I'm paraphrasing.
Yes.
You know, fulfilling the needs of our people. We've got to study very well where our people are at, and we have to use our best endeavors, our most creative and productive skills and abilities, and we have all the skills that we need in our community. It's all there, but we need to channel it, organize it, and channel it well. And we have to build infrastructure. We have to start talking about how do we build community economic infrastructure. How do we build the structures whereby we can collectively grow and thrive from those structures? And we have to think and talk more in terms of how we can make ourselves successful on every level. Papa Garvey was a great celebrator of success. He was a great creator of successful events. Whatever it is that we're doing, we must do it to the best of our ability, and we must seek to be successful. He says that there is no force like success. You know, and that he said that is why the individual makes all the effort, surround himself
with the evidence of it,
the evidence of success.
Okay.
And so we have got to think in terms of how we can be the best producers, the best creators of our own material needs. We can import our own indigenous foods from Mama Africa, from the Caribbean.
Okay.
We can import garments from our motherland. We can import cloth from our motherland. We can and create our own garments or have our garments made and imported, and always producing to the highest possible standards.
Okay.
Tendai
Give thanks for that, brother leader. The lines are going to be opening right now, kings and queens. But before we do that officially, let me just give you a little taste of this. African-centered marketing mastery on Sunday the 11th of June. ShakaraSpeaks.com presents Black Alchemy, the science of African-centered marketing mastery. On Sunday the 11th of June, we unlock the secrets that will allow black businesses and organizations to take back the power, succeed and prosper in today's world, with our special international guest and guerrilla marketing guru, Brother Aakhu, also featuring performances from Tashai Makeda, Oneness Sankara, and the 7 empowerment principles delivered by the Black History Man himself, Robin Walker, hosted by Shakara. Brother Aakhu will delve deep into Guerrilla Marketing 101, understanding and overcoming black community-specific challenges, low-cost and no-cost marketing, as well as marketing that pays you. Recession-proof marketing, the art of visibility, value creation, and marketing 3.0 towards a value-centric economy and existence. This is how we change the game. To be held on Sunday the 11th of June 2017 at the Caribou Centre, 7 Gresham Road, Brixton, SW9 7PH, kicking off at 2 p.m. Tickets are £7 in advance. More on the door. For tickets and more information, including store bookings, check shakaraspeaks.com. Black Alchemy, the science of African-centered marketing mastery. Sunday, the 11th of June. Be there. Supported by Gotkush TV. Yes, indeed, kings and queens. You're tuned into Africa Speaks of Alkebu-Lan on Galaxy Radio. We are speaking to Brother Aakhu, the world's only African-centered guerrilla marketing strategist. Kings and queens will be with us in the UK for a while. A few dates, but the main date that we're talking about right about now, kings and queens, is Sunday the 11th of June 2017 from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Kings and queens, down there at the Caribou Centre, 7 Gresham Road, Brixton, London, SW9 7PH. Tickets are £7 in advance, more on the door. And we will be having the Power Market, kings and queens. You know we like to have the Power Market with our events, so you can book your stall by calling 07896 462 408. You can get all the information, kings and queens, at shakaraspeaks.com/Black Alchemy. Once again, SHAKARA speaks.com/Black alchemy. Business is warfare. So how do we win the war? Could marketing be one of our primary weapons, kings and queens? Join us down there as we go in and break it down. And you can ask brother Aakhu some questions. We have a little bit more time than we're going to have this evening, but now the lines are open, kings and queens. And the number to call is 0207 193 0174. Once again, that's 0207 193 0174. You can also text us, kings and queens, on 07 508 323 744. That's 07 508 323 744. All right, we're gonna.
Greetings, Brother Shakara.
Yes, sir. Greetings.
Greetings.
What's your name, my brother?
Seshara.
Come again?
Topic, yeah? Seshara.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I've got a barrage of questions, okay? I want to greet the whole audience and members in the studio, yeah? Yes, I've got a barrage of questions, okay? But I'm not going to take too long, yeah? Yes, sir. In terms of liberations, okay, or the liberation movement, the liberation process, and how the Pan-Afrikanist movement is heading towards that direction, okay? How does the narrative does the capitalism fit into it, yeah? And I think one of the problems that we've got lots of problems, okay? But one of the things is we don't have no economic leadership, yeah? And another thing is that because of capitalism, they're quite happy feeding us poisons, yeah? And the governments in the Caribbean and the African, they're poisoning our people with the same poisons. But when it comes to the natural products, when we're talking about marketing, yeah, as you was referring to, and rethinking and strategizing, and like Leader Mbandaka was saying, we have to have the highest levels of standards and being, okay? In terms of liberation, yeah? Does capitalism fit into that? Because to me, it doesn't really make sense.
Thank you for
that.
I'll
put that to your economic strategist, okay?
All right.
And maybe he can give us some more information around that, because what I'm saying is there's some poor business leaders out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Doing things that they shouldn't be doing when we're talking about liberation. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother. Brother Aakhu. I know there was a slight technical in the midst of that, but the brother's essential question was: is capitalism, yeah, a part of our liberation fight? And I think he's really asking the question: is it the tool, the economic tool that we should be using to liberate ourselves?
So I will refer to the elder John Henry Clark, who said that when you at war, everything around you becomes a tool or a weapon.
Right. Okay.
Right.
When you're at war,
everything around you becomes a tool or a weapon. Another way of looking at that: when your head is in the lion's mouth, you probably should be very strategic in how you take it out. So what I'm saying is that we are our goal absolutely is not capitalism.
Right. So we're not capitalists, brother Aakhu.
Yeah, capitalists,
right?
Capitalists. Okay. So we are what we are.
Right.
Right? And we have always been who we are.
Yes.
And we will always continue to be that.
Right.
We find ourselves in a situation where the game, as kind of been played on us, looks very different from that.
Right.
And what we have to do is find a way to be ourselves, even in that context.
Okay.
As we work towards our liberation.
Okay.
Right. So we don't make apologies for doing whatever it takes for us to win.
Right.
To anybody.
All right.
Because we're going to win.
Point taken, my brother.
That's our focus. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Point taken. 0207 193 0174. Or you can text us on 07508 323 744. You know, on that subject, kings and queens.
You can also call us on.
Oh, okay. You can call us on the. All right. Yeah, call us on the mobile number as well. 07508 323 744. Well, yeah, we are also taking your calls on the main line, which is 0207 193 0174. The question that we are asking is: has the Pan-African movement failed to market itself effectively, kings and queens? Why doesn't the Afrikan Liberation Movement appeal to the masses of the people? Why is the conscious community infamous, and I mean infamous, for producing poor promotional material. It's one of the major criticisms that I've heard, kings and queens, of the Pan-African community. The flyers always look whack. What's up with that, kings and queens? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that about? Are Pan-Africanists simply out of touch, or has European propaganda simply succeeded in destroying the image of the movement in the minds of our people?
Can I ask brothers and sisters to try the mobile if you haven't been able to get through on the landline? There's a little technical problem. So the mobile is 07508 323 744. That's 07508 323 744. You can also text that number as well.
Indeed. Brothers and sisters, I'm reminded. Coming to you, Brother Aakhu. Yeah, just to let the people know, stay tuned for announcements to do with the month of Mosiah coming up, because we are going to be debating this issue, hopefully, with regards to economic systems and our liberation, specifically in relation to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and answering the question, was Marcus Garvey a capitalist? Kings and queens, a very popular viewpoint out there. Brother Kilimanjaro, you're locked in, locked on. We see your call, but unfortunately, the technicals to do that with the number that you're calling, being that we won't be able to facilitate your call as well as Brother Aakhu's call. So if you could please call on the mobile number, which is 07508 323 744. Special message for Brother Kilimanjaro, 07508 323 744. Please call that number, and we will be most pleased to take your call this evening. Brother Aunkh, you wanted to make a point?
Yes, I found it funny that you were talking about the fact that we have really poor marketing materials,
right?
And what I've discovered in my time in working with the businesses I've worked with is that poor marketing, however you look at it, comes really from two inherent sources, which is one, a poor psychology,
right,
and two, a poor skill set.
Okay.
So poor psychology now means that, so for instance, if I'm doing something because I'm desperate, right? Yeah, my organization is underfunded and we need money now, that tempers the wording I use, right? The way I structure what I'm doing. And often people pick up on the energy even more before they pick on whatever your message really is.
Okay.
And so when you have people who have been relegated to a position of relative powerlessness from that kind of context, what will happen is that their response, a reactionary response to it, what they produce will be affected by that type of psychology.
Right.
In other words, what they're experiencing is influencing their mind and thus ultimately influencing their marketing.
This is a very deep point, bro.
Say again?
This is a very deep point, but continue.
Yeah, and so the other component of that is poor skill set.
Right.
So business is very interesting because it's one of the only areas where almost everybody believes they can start a business, right? So I'll give you another analogy. If we were sitting on a plane and there were some pilots up in the cockpit and I was sitting next to you and I said, you know what? I have a dream that I would be a successful pilot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I see that pilot right there. I'm going to just go for it. I'm going to jump up into the cockpit and I'm going to tell the pilot, move on. Let me take over this plane. I'm going to take it off the ground. I'm going to take it into the air. I'm going to take it from Atlanta to London.
Yes.
And it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. I see the whole vision. It's great. I would imagine that you would probably step off the plane right after that happened.
Most definitely, my brother. Most
if
definitely.
you were wise.
Yes, sir.
You right? Because you would understand that even if I have the dream of owning or successfully flying a plane, I would need particular skill sets.
Yes, sir.
Business is warfare. We just said that.
Yes, sir.
What happens if somebody goes into war without the skill set of being able to deal with war?
Very good question, my brother.
So we are lacking in adequate training, not just from a business standpoint, because you can get business training in some places, but the kind of business training that contextualize what are the goals of African liberation oriented business. Right.
Okay.
Thank you,
so
my brother.
Need the skill set. We need to develop that skill set.
All right, and you are doing that work, and we're going to hopefully spread that knowledge, begin to spread that knowledge on Sunday, the 11th of June. More information a little bit later on, but for now, Kings and Queens, we have Brother Kilimanjaro on the line.
Yeah, I extend my greetings to you and also to the guest also, and I like his vibes.
Give thanks, Brother Kilimanjaro.
Give thanks, and also to leader Mbandaka and Sister Kai.
Tendai Mwari, my brother.
I just want to add a little bit to the discussion, basically, because I was listening to your guest explain the terms and his terminology about how to be successful in businesses. But for me, to be successful, we as African people, we must also, when we come into business or try to run our businesses, we must make sure that we become also pertinacious, and we have to also understand the power of branding.
Sorry, Kilimanjaro, pull up, rewind and come again. You dropped one big university word a while ago. And
yeah, too. I didn't know.
Why you repeat it? and explain its meaning.
It's easy to understand it. That's what makes me an African.
Indeed.
I'm saying to be successful, we have to become extremely pertinacious.
Oh, okay. I heard you. Tenacious, yes.
By being pertinacious means we must be determined.
Yes.
Okay, tenacious. I guess.
Okay. We have to understand the power of branding, the power of transportation and cost, because these are things that actually hold us back when it comes to businesses. Logistics is very important. So we must understand also that our culture as African people is extremely vast, because even in our diets, our clothing, our culture, we must understand this. So that's the reason why I always say that the general consensus that we as African people must recognize first and foremost is to understand the power of women when it comes to businesses. Because women, to me, as a business person, women are the best advertisers of any business whatsoever. Your guest did say word of mouth is important. I agree. But you cannot undermine the power of women in business, because women could either build your business or actually destroy that business. But most of us also, if all truth be told, if we don't hide the truth, we are extremely benighted towards money. Most people run from money. They got this general conception about money by saying they run, money is in everything, money is in this. But when you're in a capitalist society, for example, when you know that money is king to them, you also have to make sure you two are involved in wealth creation, creating monetary wealth for yourself and for your businesses. In fact, most of us actually run from money, and I think it's a disgrace, because for me, I understand the power of money, because money too is power. So majority of us are extremely atrocious towards even our own businesses, and that's not good. We seem to support everybody else's, but when it comes to African businesses, we become divisive, we become atrocious towards it. And the reason for this is not just because of the branding alone, but also there is this inner thing that has created division amongst us, where we now see ourselves as enemies and see our own enemies as our true friends. Because your guest rightly said that people tend to spend money with who they trust. In other words, why do black people spend money and buy Chinese food when in fact Chinese people don't even think, let me go into black African businesses and buy black African food to eat? They don't think like that, but we immediately just disregard all these things. We easily to go into Tesco's or go to whoever. Like you rightly said, these people, in terms of white supremacy, have already said, well, don't worry, we could feed you, we could do everything for you, as long as you know we don't like it, but we still keep punishing you and being pernicious towards it. The mindset needs to change.
Thank you very much.
The pleasure's mine. But I think I've been listening to too much Leader Mbandaka.
Indeed. Keep listening, my brother. Keep listening. You know what I mean? You're a beneficiary of good marketing, Kilimanjaro.
you certainly, brother Kilimanjaro, you certainly humbled me this evening. One love, my brother. 10 times more.
All the time. All
right, brother Aakhu, I want to draw you to something that brother Kilimanjaro just said in terms of women being central and essential to business. 07508-323-744. In the spirit of brother Kilimanjaro's contribution, let us hear from some of those beautiful strong African, intelligent, magnificent African women. Listeners, we know you're out there, kings and queens, on in the world of Galaxy Radio. 07508-323-744. We're asking the question: has the Pan-African movement failed to market itself effectively And most importantly, where can we find and how can we develop effective marketing in the African community? Brother Aakhu. Oh, sorry, before we get to Brother Aakhu, we've got some texts. Let me get to the texts. Go ahead, Mama Kaya.
None but ourselves can heal our None but ourselves can heal our minds. None but ourselves can feed our kind. But a white-bellied black British is someone who consumes unnatural manufactured food made by their colonial master and think that it is good for them. A pharmaceutical drug addict is one who is dependent on the chemicalized tablets and fluids made by their colonial master. And that's Prince Levi. Also, Prince Levi says the color red, black, yellow, and green covers the Ethiopian flag, the UNIA movement, the Jamaican and Grenadian flag, and other African countries.
All right, give thanks for that. Okay, yes, Aakhu.
I think what he's probably saying is not a what do you call it? It's bigger in terms of, it's not a small market.
No, yeah.
The images are not those colors it catches a bigger market than we may think. I think that's what he's saying.
And it should. At the same time, I've heard, because the question that you asked Mama Kai earlier in terms of red, black, and green and that kind of thing, I've heard, because the movement associated with red, black, and green has been attacked, people associate that with poor quality, if that makes sense. Just the colours red, black, and green.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, I recall very, very vividly when red, gold, and green had the same kind of connotations until Adidas started to use red, gold, and green in their thing, and then it became something that people wanted to wear again, which is a deep thing. Brother Naya Oren, please call in the mobile number 07508 323 744 07508 323 744. Special message for Brother Naya Oren and all callers subsequent, to be honest. 07508 323 744 is a number to call. Yes, Uncle Koo, on the subject of African women and their important centrality and essentiality to business, what say you?
So, I don't really have an issue with anything the brother said. As a matter of fact, particularly, I think the importance of woman entrepreneurship. As we know, in traditional marketplaces, it was not uncommon for women to control half of the economy.
Yes.
Which would be a balanced economy, which we do not have currently in the environments that we exist in. Although I would say that in America here, the fastest growing entrepreneurial group is black women.
Okay.
They just have not been doing particularly well at all. They're actually doing considerably worse than the numbers that I quoted to you for black business in general.
Yeah.
So we're still under a patriarchal kind of formation. So we have to be, again, insistent upon training our women on how to effectively move in a context that many women are not necessarily, because of when we talk about things like ideas like warfare and all these kinds of things, it's not necessarily a comfortable orientation for many people to take on that type of orientation. I come from a kind of a background that, I'm excited about something like warfare in the context of business.
Right.
But not everybody is. So we have to figure out ways to allow women to do what they do and to do it successfully. And to me, again, that's just a matter of retraining at a very high level. So I think that's very important. The issue of women in marketing in particular, I think is very very important as well, and should not be underlooked. Of course, we know that has been associated with certain types of imagery that could be considered, perhaps hypersexualized and other types of things in terms of women in marketing. So, for instance, the Ford company Mustangs in the 60s had a problem selling their Mustangs, and all of a sudden they decided they would put some women with, bathing suits on the car and all that kind of stuff, and that has been the history of sports cars ever since.
Yes.
Is that we put, So the power of the women in marketing, in another sense, to his point, I think is really, really important.
Right.
And if we could recondition the imagery, I mean, there's so much we could do with that in terms of how we reconceptualize beauty in this type of context. Like, it should be something that we really strongly consider. So I think it's a very, 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 very important point that he raises about the role of women in business and in marketing in particular.
Captain.
Thank you, Brother Aakhu.
Okay, we have Brother Emmett on the line. But Brother Emmett, before you come in, Sister Joan called and she said, and you've kind of partly addressed this, Brother Aunkh. Is the Pan-African movement ready to overthrow patriarchy and allow women leadership? Something along those lines. I think you kind of addressed that partially. We have Brother Emmett. Go ahead, Brother Emmett. I would like to join the discussion this evening.
Greetings. That's MX. That's just M and X. Michael X kind of thing.
Oh, MX. Greetings, Brother MX. Where I say?
Well, what go on, Shakara?
Everything blessed,
I want to big you up because, as if me up there's two halves of me. One's filming, the other half's marketing. So I'm very interested to see your thing on June the 11th.
Yes, sir.
I was driving fast in order trying to listen to what the brother Aunkh was saying, but although I heard that Sister Kai asked a question, I don't think I can answer that question. However, I do want to address something that you heard Seisha Ra say, and which was earlier. And one of the experiences that I've had in the black community, doing my thing and all of that, is that we don't actually rate and respect marketing as a community, Pan-Afrikanists as well. And because we don't respect and rate it, this is why I think somebody asked the question: has the Pan-Afrikanist movement marketed themselves effectively?
Yeah, that's our main question today.
However, it depends what the Pan-Afrikanist movement wants. So let's say, for example, I doubt that there is a Shakara event that happens that your followers on Facebook or your followers on Twitter don't attend. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you market yourself in a very good way. But if you wanted your 1,000... So let's say, for example, you're happy with your 1,000 people that come to your events, yeah?
Yeah.
But if you want to turn... So the question is, does Shakara, for example, want to turn 1,000 into 2,000 or into 4,000 people?
Yes.
And that's the question that the Pan-Afrikanist movement needs to ask itself on the whole sense, because I think we're quite happy with the numbers that we have in terms of who attends meetings and, and this is why we don't really respect marketing. But if you do want your events to attract to a wider appeal of people, then there's things that you have to kind of do. I think
like what, bro?
Well, brother, there's loads of things that you have to do or you can consider doing. Changing some of the language, possibly. And to a certain extent, even some people might even say compromising the movement in order to attract more.
Right.
But I don't think the Pan-African movement is ready to kind of do that kind of thing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Therefore, I think that where the Pan-African movement is, marketing-wise, is exactly where they want to be. I don't think they really want what they will term as outsiders, possibly, and outsiders in terms of the mindset. Yeah.
Right.
The people who probably don't believe in Garvey, but are still black. Do you know what I mean? They don't really want those people coming to meetings and buying their products and all those kind of things. There.
Okay.
So I'm very, very interested to hear what what's his name, Brother Aunkh?
Aunkh, yes, Aunkh.
Yeah, what he has to say. Because like I said, I mean, not berating Seisha Ra, but Seisha Ra, when he called up on what he said, he kind of showed you as an elder, these people, a lot of people, they don't rate or respect imagery. They don't rate or respect how things look, and that's an important part of marketing.
Right.
What's his name? Kilimanjaro called up and spoke about the importance of branding.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of us, a lot of people in the Pan-African movement, they know nothing about branding.
Okay.
No real understanding.
All right.
Of branding, which is why we end up having these extra long names with our products, and extra long names with our what's it called, with whatever we're doing. Do you understand?
Okay.
Which is why you guys were quite clever when you did INAP, the International African People's Parliament. Of course, you've got to shorten it because it makes it a bit more catchy.
Yes, sir.
It's easier for me to say INAP than it is to say National African People's Parliament.
All right.
But we've got to kind of do that on a wider scale. Pan-Africanist movement. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And I do think, however, I heard what you said about Adidas.
Yeah.
And adopting the red, gold, and green. Now, having studied
MX, I'm going to have to land you, yeah? But go ahead.
Yeah, of course. But I think the red, gold, and green has always been powerful.
Yes.
In terms of, I don't think Adidas really added that much value to it. That's what I'm going to
No,
say.
yeah, I think they co-opted it, but I think that there are a lot of, I do believe that those colours were made popular and kept popular by the Rastafari movement, and they were co-opted by Adidas. But I say that to say that some people who may not have used it, worn it before, started to wear it, but they probably didn't give Rastafari credit for for marketing that effectively, if that makes sense.
But then, sorry, before I go, but then it kind of shows you the questions that Rastafari should have kind of made. Should Rastafari have patented those colours?
Well, that's an eternal question, my brother.
Years ago.
All right.
And then but we got to get more business savvy. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, sir. I hear you.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you very much.
11th, yeah?
Yes, King. See you on Sunday the 11th for Black Alchemy, the science of African-centered marketing mastery, where Brother Aakhu will most definitely be in the house. Now, Brother Aakhu, our brother says it depends on what the Pan-African community wants. Do we want more people to be a part of our fold, or are we just satisfied with the 1,000 and sometimes 100, 200 people that come to our events? And if we do want more, do we have to compromise? Is that the kind of thing that we should be considering, Brother Aakhu, in terms of marketing the African Liberation Movement?
Okay, so that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I myself am not a big on the whole, compromise type of idea.
Right.
I don't know what that means. I am with the idea of strategy.
Right.
And strategy may look different than compromise. When you say compromise, inherent in it suggests that you are fundamentally changing your agenda and vision.
Yeah.
Whereas strategy, it may appear that way, but that's not really what you're doing.
Okay.
So your question is, are we kind of where we want to be? And I would say that if we're using people like Garvey as a model, right,
yes,
who actually achieved the task of having, millions.
Sorry, Brother Aakhu, don't forget your point. Once again, Kings and Queens, 07508 323 744. That's a message for Brother Naya Oren and Brother Kwame from Nottingham, who just called in. We need you to call the mobile number 07508 323 744. I apologize, Brother Aakhu. You're at the point of talking about Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that, for an example, the Garvey organization, the UNIA, at one time had, multiple millions of members.
Yes.
And much of us who say we're in the movement would point readily to that type of, model for what we're attempting to do. Secondly, many of our organizations are financially struggling. I don't think we want to be financially struggling.
No, we certainly don't.
And that's a major issue. So
right.
I understand kind of the quagmire. Sometimes what may be meant in terms of what we want might be that that's all we feel we have the capacity to do at that particular time.
Right.
Because of what I'm talking about, because of the lack of skill set to actually do more, right? So what do you do if you come to a place, right? And this is the best you can do for marketing, you can get 20 people into a room, or 100 people, or 1,000. That's the best you can do, really.
Yep.
Then maybe you say, you know what, I'm just going to be comfortable there.
Right.
But it would, part of our issue to me is that we have kind of not so much a lack of resource problem, although that may be somewhat of an issue. It's a lack of resourcefulness,
right.
And that would be a different way of thinking and approaching how we're doing what we're doing. I would say that in my experience, and I've been a part of several organizations. I'm a member of the UNA, and several other organizations in Atlanta here, where we deal with these issues. We want to be leaders in the African community in general.
Right.
We want, and we know that there's a way to, part of what is intrinsic in the idea of Pan-Afrikanism is all black people. And so it should, our agenda shouldn't be, the black people that come to the Pan-African meeting.
Yes, yes.
Although that would be a good place to start.
Yes.
And certainly if we were able to show and prove something substantial to those people, to his point,
right.
then it would automatically attract more people, because you have some people who can catch a vision, and then you have people who need tangible results. So there's a topic that we'll be covering in our presentation called the law of visibility.
Yes, sir.
Which I say is probably the most important metaphysical principle that governs our reality. We're in and I didn't go into this realm because not everybody's comfortable with it, but we're in kind of a realm of mysticism and magic when we talk about marketing. And marketing has two real lanes. Yes. One is militarism, and one is kind of mysticism or magic, right?
Right.
So in visibility, in the law of visibility, one of the things we say that is a marketing and or magic equation is that seeing is believing.
Yes.
Right? You've never heard anybody say seeing is the truth.
True that.
Right? And there's a reason that you got to understand. Well, why do we say seeing is believing, but we don't say seeing is the truth?
Yes, sir. Understood.
Right? So, on a deeper level, we're going to have to recognize that. Now, I'm going to get a little mystical, so don't get scared.
Go ahead, bro. No fear.
I'm going to save the deep mysticism for the 11th.
Indeed.
But for right now, we have to come to the point that we realize that we are living in the land of make-believe.
Right, okay.
And here's what I mean by that. Very important. Not just there's the mythical, magical land of make-believe that, we were told when we were children or whatever.
Yes.
But make believe is to coerce belief into somebody so that they organize their existence around belief. So we see that, for instance, in religion. I don't want to attack anybody's religion, but religion requires your belief. Doesn't require knowledge, doesn't require facts, doesn't require any of that stuff. It requires your belief. Well, that is fundamentally what we have in politics. Right?
Yep, true.
Whatever side it's all belief, because they all lie. and you believe this one or the other one. You believe the conservatives, or you believe whoever you believe.
Very true.
The whole landscape is about belief. Marketing is driven by belief. Can I get you to believe in the stuff that I'm trying to sell you? And the problem often that has happened with Pan-Africanists and others is that we have attempted to be truth tellers. And what's the problem of the truth in the land of make-believe? The problem of the truth in the land of make-believe is that the truth is unbelievable. Let's give you a clear indication of this. So, for instance, you say to somebody that Africa is the mother of civilization. When they think of the images in their mind that they have seen of Africa, they see starving people in Ethiopia. They've seen images and movies of people swinging from trees and all these kinds of things. And so that becomes, there's no frame of reference based on the reality, the system of belief that they have, or the belief system they organize their consciousness around, for them to accept that information, or even ponder that information, or even to research that information to find out if you were just making it up or not.
Yes, sir.
So what we fundamentally have to do now is not even just tell the truth. Now we have to make the truth believable.
Very interesting. All right. Aakhu, we're coming up to the top of the hour, which is the close of our show. So we're in closing words time now, brother Aakhu. You know what? I don't usually do this, but I'm gonna try and direct your closing words a little piece. One issue that I wanted to get to earlier in the show is this issue of developing black businesses that rely on black people, and most quote unquote business experts will tell you not to develop businesses that are targeting your community. You should be looking to get everybody's money, otherwise your business will fail. And we can't support, we don't have the capacity to support businesses based upon our community alone. Is this a sound idea? Is it an idea that rings true, or is it one that is a lie? And how do we dispel this myth if it is a lie?
So it is it is what I call relatively sound and absolutely mythic.
Okay.
Because of the way the culture works and projects it would make sense for an expert to give that type of advice.
Okay, right.
Within
right,
a certain context.
Right.
However, I live in America, and I've seen no shortage of ethnic groups.
Yes.
Right. That come to America, barely can speak the language.
Yes.
And they put up a shop right in the black community. They don't go to any other community, by the way. And there's the Koreans, the Arabs, the Chinese, the Indians, East Indians, and so on and so forth. I can go, down the list of ethnic groups and how these groups were able to achieve success in America was essentially by lodging themselves
in the black community.
Yes,
same over here.
Who happen to have a very poor, economic ideology.
Yes.
So there's over in the Africans in America, they say there's over $1.3 trillion in the community. That is not, not a lot to go around. So that the question is, do you have an actual strategy for competing? And what has happened for most of our business experts is we do not know how to make black people competitive in that environment.
Right.
And so we have to give essentially advice based on the premise that I know you can't win unless at best you try to pretend to be invisible.
Right.
That's the only idea I can come up with.
Okay.
Because in some ways we haven't really projected enough success outside of that context.
Yes.
So it's a fair assessment in that context.
Okay.
I would probably disagree.
All right. I'm gonna give you an extra minute to close with anything that you might want to close with, my brother.
Okay. I'm just fully appreciative of the moment and of the all the great questions that were asked here today. But what I would say to the audience is that we're just really scratching the surface. As you can see, the hour or two just really rolled by really quickly. We've only scratched the surface of what I'm talking about. We haven't really gone into yet what we're talking about when we say African-centered marketing paradigm, which is a completely different marketing paradigm. My contention is that marketing needs a new face. It needs new faces. It needs the old way has not worked for us to a large degree. And I've spent the last 7-8 years of my life working on a system that we can use, that I'm using now with my private clients, that we can apply to our situation to create African liberation oriented businesses that actually have an actual psychology and an actual skill set that they can apply to creating the results that they want in their business.
Yes, sir.
That's what Sunday the 11th will be about. It will be about preparing you to really embrace this new paradigm that will lead to greater results in your business. I will not leave without making a tremendous investment into the London community. So if you show up, I promise you I'm going to make it more than worth your while, the £7 or whatever it costs to get there. We are geared up to transform our global community. So I'm going to give everything I can to that task.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Brother Aakhu. Brother, sorry, 1 second.
Tendamore. Before you go to Brother Leader, let me just read this last texter. It says, to my kings and queens, God bless and keep you. There are African people who do have disposable income and who would like to invest in Africa and even live in Africa. But there are very few black organizations that black people like me can go to and not feel vulnerable to financial abuse. Pan-Afrikan Movement could be an organization that could signpost people in the right direction more effectively with marketing to help direct us. I would love to spend my money in Africa and put people into employment, but where do we get honest, trustworthy advice?
All right, thank you for that. And you've identified.
And that's from Sister Queen P.
You've identified the need, and at some point in future shows, there are something that we can say. And we was looking to do that with an event called Paid this year, Kings and Queens. So stay tuned for that. But you've identified the need, my sister, and we'll come back to that. Brother Leader, closing words, please. Tendamore.
Yes, Tendamore. We're giving thanks and praises again unto Mwari Muzumukuru, the Creator and the ancestors, for blessing us with so much wisdom flowing through the airways this evening, courtesy of our beloved brother. And his commitment to thinking through this challenging issue about how we market ourselves, how we become economically prosperous as a people. And we can see that the brother has done a tremendous amount of excellent work. And we give thanks and praises for the wisdom and knowledge that he shared with us this evening. Just very quickly on the issue of whether we as an African community, whether we should be setting up businesses that can attract monies from other communities, and whether it's a handicap for us to set up businesses within our own community where we are attracting the custom of our own community, marketing our own products. Now we can go to Indian communities, Chinese communities, and other communities in this country, Jewish communities, where they have businesses that are marketing their own cultural products exclusively to their own community.
When was the last time you bought a sari, brother? You know?
Oh, well, I never have.
All right, cool. Just asking.
Never have. Never even walked into one of them shops and look around because it really doesn't appeal to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't appeal to my cultural and spiritual sensibilities.
Yes.
And that's something that we have to look at. And, you know, at the same time, they're cornering the market in our community as well, selling our foods and our clothes and various other things. So we need to look at it. It's a huge contradiction, and we need to look at that. This is what I want to close on. Now, the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, says our success educationally, industrially, and politically is based upon the protection of our nation, founded by ourselves. And you've heard us say, brothers and sisters, almost every time you hear from the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist movement, we emphasize the importance of nation building. We have to build our nation, and we have to ground our every vision and our every strategy and program in a plan towards nation building, inspired by the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king. And what is a nation? What is a nation, brothers and sisters? As we say many, many times, a nation is a people organized as a sovereign entity. We organize as a sovereign entity. We think as a sovereign entity. We think as a sovereign entity, and then we will desire things African. To think as a sovereign entity, to think African at all times.
Yes,
if we think African, we will always desire things African, and we will always create those things African that we desire. There's no space for anyone else to infiltrate that process. So I close, brothers and sisters, as I always do, with the words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, on this evening where we were so supremely blessed by the wisdom of our brother Aunkh. Brother Papa Garvey says, unite, organize now or perish. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Tendai Mwari,
kings and queens. All that's left for me to do is remind you that tomorrow we are down there at Mama Africa Culture Shop for our Vimbo Verenga, which is our African study of African spirituality and religions. Kings and queens, come down at 7:30 Mama Africa Culture Shop, 282 High Road, Leighton, E10 5P W. Yes, indeed, kings and queens, from 7:30 p.m. More information, alkebulan.org/study. That's ALKEBULAN.org/study. And finally, kings and queens, as Brother Aunkh has said, the admission for Sunday, the 11th of June, which is Black Alchemy, the Science of African-Centered Marketing Mastery, where Brother Aunkh will be delivering, is only £7 in advance. Now, I'm being honest, kings and queens, for what you're getting on that night, you should only be spending £10 or more. So we're giving you a discount, and we're giving you a bargain, at £7 in advance, more on the door, kings and queens. So check that out at shakaraspeaks.com/be Black Alchemy, shakaraspeaks.com/Black Alchemy. Get your discount price tickets from there. Tune in next week as we continue to talk it straight and make it plain. There's been an international vibe to our African Liberation Day series, and hopefully next summer we will be connecting with the African continent, kings and queens, from Spain to America to the continent of Mama Africa. I'll say no more except for to say, tune next week as we continue to talk it straight and make it plain. Around here we say, Tendai Mwari. Oh, up next we have Brother SG Vibes coming up right after this, kings and queens, with the Royal Empress Sounds. And last and finally, let me just thank once again Brother Aunkh for joining us on our show. Thank you, my brother. Tendai Mwari.